Okay, good afternoon. This is Richard Hsu, host of Hsu Untied. Today I'm very pleased to have with me as my guest Tod Cohen, who's a partner at Steptoe Johnson. Tod, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Richard. Pleasure to be here.
So, Tod, let me start kind of by asking you why you went to law school in the first place.
Well, there's a couple of reasons. One, I was a Democratic fundraiser in Washington, D.C., and was a PAC fundraiser, Political Action Committee, in the day. And one of the things I found out was that if you're a fundraiser, people want you to remain as a fundraiser. So law school was a way to get out of the fundraising business, but to do the work that I wanted to do, which is to continue to work in trying to change laws and build out the law and work in the law. So worked on the Hill, and I found law school was incredibly helpful for that.
Yeah. Did you know when you went to law school what kind of lawyer you wanted to be?
I kind of did. I still am what I thought I would be when I came out, which is somewhere in the middle of the public policy, traditional law, using law as a tool as opposed to in and of itself an end result. And that's where I wanted to use the law to help clients and work on solving problems, be it whatever portion of the law you wanted to apply that to, be it drafting legislation to enactment to enforcement and how those laws impact people.
What was your first job out of law school?
The first job out of law school was to go to a large firm in Washington, D.C. I was with Covington and Burling as I came out of law school.
And what kind of law did you practice then?
My practice was divided in about three different areas: a significant portion of public policy, intellectual property, and learning traditional, both corporate and litigation. So, but I would say the majority of it was in the copyright and public policy areas.
Interesting. So were you a litigator or more of a transactional lawyer?
Well, I'm more in that weird, what's somewhere in between, right? So if you work on legislation, it's all in many ways to avoid litigation or to help solve the problem. So I give the example of market opening, working with companies to try to get their products in markets, such as my former work with eBay. That requires working in legislation as well as potentially litigation when people try to stop you, and also deals and transactions so that you can do that with partners.
Interesting. So how long were you in private practice before you went to your first in-house job?
About 6 years.
And what made you decide to do that? But did you not like private practice? What was your reasoning?
No, I really did. I spent 4 years in the Washington, D.C. offices of Covington, and then spent 2 years in London working most of the time with the Business Software Alliance, doing software anti-piracy and public policy in Europe. Late 90s, right as the internet was getting starting to become part of the world. And I had an opportunity out of my copyright work and piracy work to join the Motion Picture Association of America at the time, when it was the MPAA, and came back to the U.S. and started to work for Mr. Valenti and the MPAA as one of the vice president of what we called new media. Right, but it was really the internet practice, domain names, anti-piracy, the creation of Napster and Kazaa and the different threats, the introduction of DVDs and digital goods and and piracy, but also how the companies at that time, the motion picture companies, could take advantage of the new distribution channels that the internet created.
Oh, interesting. And so how did that lead that to eBay?
Well, I threatened to sue them. So I was working with the MPAA on pirated goods being sold over the internet, and one of the places where in the late 90s eBay was one of the places where that was happening. And instead of filing the lawsuits, the company came to me and said, "Hey, we need someone to open a Washington, D.C. office and to help us with rights holders and to develop a program to deal with, at that time it was called the Buddy Program, but really how to help rights holders with counterfeit materials sold across eBay and to stop that." And that's what I was brought in to do and spend 18 years in the eBay family.
That's amazing.
Running government relations in different parts of the legal group.
Interesting. So tell me a little bit about the mix. I mean, you got to do some policy stuff. You got to do some lobbying. What kinds of stuff did you do when you were there?
I opened the Washington, D.C. office back in 2000. Right. I joined the week eBay hit its all-time high and the first internet bubble burst. So I like to think that sometimes I may have helped to pop the first internet bubble. Tod joined the internet. Go sell. But so that was in March 2000.
Wow.
But I opened the Washington, D.C. office as many of the internet organic or fundamental laws were being set, and helped to work with eBay domestically and internationally as it built out its business and to try to help set internet law and policy around the world.
Wow. So you must have really seen that Washington office grow a lot during your time there.
Oh yeah, to the point where in 2004, I took a move with the company out here to Northern California to join eBay because we were expanding the global government relations group to Asia and parts of Latin America, as well as everywhere.
It must have been really exciting being at eBay during that time. I mean, just the growth and everything, and it must have been really exciting.
Oh, absolutely. It was the acquisition of PayPal, the growth of eBay, the acquisition of Skype, the acquisition of StubHub, and just the growth of the internet. And as eBay was part of that, and one of the seminal companies in the growth and creation of the internet, especially in the e-commerce space and the empowerment, like working with allowing you to buy things everywhere in the world from anyone.
Yeah, totally.
And eBay was one of the places where you could do that.
Yeah,
and
totally.
Still is.
Yeah. So what made you decide to leave eBay? You did a couple more in-house companies. What made you decide to leave eBay?
I'd had the great experience to work with it during the growth years, and then also had an opportunity when eBay and PayPal split up. I moved over to the StubHub subsidiary, which was a wholly owned subsidiary of eBay, and became general counsel of StubHub and spent 3 years doing tickets and event tickets, and it's super, actually really fun. I mean, the ticket space punches above its weight in the amount of activity and interesting things. Also punches above its weight in the emotions around ticket resale. For some reason, people get very emotional around not wanting to spend too much for tickets, but knowing they want to see something. So dealt with all of those issues. And then after about 3 years of that, had an opportunity to go over to Twitter to help build out some of their different portfolios, and spent 1.5 years at Twitter. And that was an interesting period.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Well, after having done such interesting in-house work, and maybe it couldn't have been more interesting, I think you then actually ventured back into private practice. So tell me what would lure you back to private practice?
Well, I really was, in all honesty and fairness, I'd been about 20 years in-house.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, my appreciation of doing legal work is much harder to do in-house at a level that I wanted to participate, that private practice gives you more of an opportunity. Like I found time after time, interesting issues were being sent from in-house to outside counsel because of the need for people from outside being brought in to help out, that you don't want to pay for their time 100% full-time in-house. So more of it being in-house counsel work is in many ways more generalist, and a mile wide and an inch deep. Because you're always in a position of how can we deal with the day-to-day work.
Of course. You're serving
and that's a great thing. And I loved it for years, but it's a lot different when you're advising clients on specific and tend to be more deep or difficult issues that you have outside counsel to work with on.
So how would you describe your private practice now? What areas have you chosen to focus on?
Pretty much a lot of the same areas that I was in-house. So a lot of public policy, domestically, from the smallest local offices and local municipalities to the largest jurisdictions in the world, on a variety of public policy, mostly in the internet space, but also now spending a lot of time in the AI space. So trying to build a practice with how is this technology impacting clients? How are they reacting to it? What are the things they need to do? And really to try to, I'm always focused on my practice in how can you help clients to not waste resources, to be much more thoughtful about when is it that you need to use portions of the law to assist the business or to protect the businesses, as opposed to being a, oh my goodness, we need to go in and litigate, or oh my goodness, we need to go do a deal. Those are many times those are the right solutions, but my focus is really on how can you use other tools to solve problems. And litigation is one tool, legislation is another tool, lobbying, regulatory work, as well as transactions and deals. So my practice focuses almost in the whole internet, data protection, AI, technology, how technology changes things and gives opportunities, and representing clients around the world to achieve their goals.
Did it seem like law firms really changed a lot from when you left it 20 years ago, or did it seem more the same?
Well, I was fortunate enough to be at the time when when I was at Covington, we never knew what our hours were. They didn't tell you.
Oh, interesting. You
submitted your timesheets, and that was that. And there was never, so there's been a difference. Clearly, there's a difference in the demands. What I found out was I worked as hard, if not harder, when I joined in-house, and do the same as when I'm in private practice. That the myth somehow that, oh, you go in-house and you're going to work less. And also the myth somehow that it was that the hourly pressure wasn't as much in the old days. It was. It just wasn't expressed in the same ways as it is now. I have not found that much difference in my private practice work, even from what it was in the late 90s to what it is today. And not that much difference from in-house.
Interesting. Well, tell me a little bit about how your in-house experience has helped you. I mean, I assume it helps you make you a better lawyer now for clients. Tell me a little bit about, how you're able to bring that experience to bear now as a private practice.
Well, first and foremost, I think it makes the biggest difference in having an understanding of what in-house counsel go through, right? And being able to advise them and assist them from working on the inside and then being on the outside. It's a lot different posture. So and this is not to disparage other lawyers I've worked with from outside, but there's a real difficult issue in many instances where you have outside lawyers that want to make legal principles and trying to achieve things that on behalf of a client that are not what the same goals are that an in-house counsel has. And that much more about like, well, let's be realistic. Sure, I can argue the law for you and we could challenge and go and win a court case, but the thing that matters is how do you enforce it? How do you receive? Like there's a lot of legal victories that don't have any positive impact upon the business outcomes. And what I try to do is work with clients to help them achieve their business outcomes, not just to achieve we want to have a legal victory. And that's something that there are plenty of outside counsels that know that, and there's plenty who don't.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, are you finding yourself really enjoying the private practice? Or are you finding yourself missing in-house? But how, I know you've been doing it for a little while.
Both.
What's your experience?
Both. I mean, there's always the pressure of, look, there's no question that when you're in-house, you've got one client, right? And that client's paying full time, your time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And when you're outside, you're working to get more clients.
Yeah.
So there's no question that the need to generate billing and working is part of outside counsel. It's not part of inside counsel.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's got its upsides and that's got its downsides.
Yeah, totally.
But I'm much more realistic about it. And that's something that I knew going in, that one of the challenges was going to be, you have to always be, what is it, there's the ABCs, always be closing, right? And you do need to focus on that, working as outside counsel, but you have to do that attached to what the business goals that you're working for clients on.
Yeah, yeah. Do you are you getting a chance? You mentioned that one of the reasons you wanted to go to private practice is work on some of the issues that you didn't have time to focus on. Are you finding is that turning out to be the case for you?
Yeah, in particular, I mean, in the AI space, as it's come up and as the rapid change we're seeing between, I mean, artificial intelligence and machine learning's been around for a while.
Yeah.
The public consciousness of it has definitely skyrocketed since last October with the release of GPT 3.0, 3.5, GPT 3.0.
Yeah.
The release of Chat GPT has made a huge difference, right? Just in the public consciousness, but also now we're finding that it's filling up a significant portion of different legal agendas that are out there. And it is what I've found that it is much different than the last technology hype cycle. That would be the crypto NFT blockchain universe, which is a valuable universe in some instances, but I don't think has anywhere close to the impact that we're seeing with the growth of artificial intelligence and the applications that are coming online and making significant changes to a variety of different people's businesses, right? Even if you accept that the change that will come through AI is maybe a 5% difference in productivity, that's a massive amount of difference.
Yeah.
Right? 5% is huge. Yeah. And that's the low end of the estimates.
Do you think it's more akin to the internet.com boom and how much the internet changed? Do you think there's more of a parallel with that that technology revolution?
I do.
Yeah.
I really do. I do. It's the first one I've seen since, I think the other ones that I've experienced, the growth of the creation of e-commerce, the growth of payments and online payments. I'd put this, and then the technology and telecommunications and communication spread that you saw through voice over IP, internet protocol, right? The whole world of Skype. This is another step change in technology. And so I think that we're seeing, because when it gets to the public consciousness, there's the public consciousness of hype, and then there's the public consciousness of, oh, there's actual change here. And if you played with the systems, which I have, and I'm going to bet you have as well, you've tried out different parts of the AI pieces, it is different. There are some incredible tools that are way different than what we had before.
Yeah.
Right? When you ask ChatGPT to write something, it may not be perfect, and you certainly need editing and humans to be engaged in it, but it's not what happened in the chat bots of 5 years ago, or even Siri, which is ultimately a chat bot.
Yeah, right. Well, Todd, you've obviously had an incredible career. You've been in private practice, you were in-house, you're back in private practice. Do you ever see a future maybe as a non-lawyer doing something else completely unrelated to law? Is that a possibility in the Tod Cohen future?
I think that is. I've always still been involved significantly in the political world. You see the lobby game behind me, and the little box behind me is a 2000 Palm Beach County voting booth with the butterfly ballot. And so I stay involved in political work and continue to, and I expect that I'll go and spend more time in that as it goes forward, not necessarily on behalf of clients, but on behalf of trying to be engaged in the world and using my skills in public policy.
Yeah. Well, Tod, it's been a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate your taking the time and sharing your story. If you do decide to ever do something else, please come back and tell me about it.
I will. Thank you, Richard.
This is Richard Hsu and Tod Cohen. Thanks.